Alright, fellow YouTubers, this is Guy, the IT guy. Today, we start with the new generation of mini PC open source, the Banana Pi. What I'm going to do, first off, is I'm going to test it on a couple of minute little systems. It'll probably take me all night to do the video, since I got started pretty late. But, first stage of the video, the unboxing. Which is not much of an unboxing. It's just a box. It's just a pretty blue box. It's actually a new box. The original Banana Pis were coming in ugly boxes. I don't know what they look like, but from what everybody describes, it's like, hey, it's a pretty blue and white box. Looks like a box of prescription medications. But who am I to judge? I don't have a company that makes cool little single board computers. Oh, that is hard to pull out of there. Yeah. I must have lost the instructions. Nice little static bag. Always make sure you ground yourself out on a PC or something. You know, make sure you ground it out. Nonetheless. Boom. And there's our beauty. As you can see, it pretty much looks like... Oh, I zoomed in. I didn't want to zoom in. It pretty much looks like your standard Raspberry Pi. I do not have one that's not in a case all bolted down, sadly enough. But it looks like your standard Raspberry Pi. Somebody swiped my pointer. I was going to use a laser pointer, but that'd probably just blind everybody. But as you see, we got our 1 gig of RAM, 512 there, 512 there. We got our wireless board. It does have a V40 processor. So it does have the same processor. Essentially, that's in a Raspberry Pi version 2. That's why I said I want to give this a sporting try. Give it a little bit of a run. See if it can keep up with the Raspberry Pi 2 or outperform it and surpass, keep up with the Raspberry Pi 3 or surpass the Raspberry Pi 3, which would be great. And I forgot to turn off the air conditioner. There's way too much noise in here. Sorry about that. I just realized I still had the AC on. That was a noob move. There we go. Alright, time for a little quiet time. I was having to compete with the air conditioning unit. Now, on the boards that you would pay a little bit more for, you also have, instead of your standard OTG port for power, you would have an actual, I think it's a 2.3 millimeter or 2.5 millimeter DC jack, which would be great because I've set up, I'd say about 10 Raspberry Pis, and in one house alone there was 5, and with having to shut down the Raspberry Pi, granted they do the proper shutdown procedure, but you still have juice running to the Pi, so to shut the Pi off, they essentially unplug it, which one of these little switches would come in handy with. I meant to get them to buy them, but they said that they did not need them necessarily. But these switches come in handy if you do not have a switch set up on your case for your Raspberry Pi and or Banana Pi or Orange Pi or Coconut Pi, whatever is floating around out there. That way you don't have to keep unplugging and plugging back in, because that'll eventually wear out the metal on your port, and you'll eventually come down to where all you gotta do is bump the cord and your unit will shut off. Much like back in the Nintendo days and the Super Nintendo days, if you transported it around too much or shuffled it around too much on your floor, in your bedroom, eventually the cord would wear down and start to break the shielding and or main lead wire in the middle, your positive wire, or it could even break the DC jack out. I got a hold of a Nintendo once. It's sitting out in my front room. They couldn't get it to power up anymore. I opened it up. Just needed to re-solder 2 of the solder points back on. fully operational Nintendo. 72-pin port connector didn't even need replaced either. They broke it early on. I think they only had it like a year. They broke it. And then they never played with it again. They stuck it in a closet and got over it, I guess. Because I got it right before the Super Nintendo came out. Which was an odd move. But, continue on. You have a power on switch, which is right here. I'll turn that up like that. We have a power on switch right here. They're both momentary switches though, because we also have a reset switch, which that's kind of cool. And they're very easy to solder to if you have a magnifying glass and whatnot, although you probably wouldn't need to solder to because we got GPIO pins that we could run switches off of. But just saying, they're there. So if you put this in a Raspberry Pi case, you're gonna have to drill out an extra hole. I'd say like a little, I'd put a 10mm hole in and replace it with a 10mm momentary switch button. And of course you'd have to do the same over here on the side. But as we continue on, there's our SD card reader slot. And here we have our HDMI port. I'm not for sure how far up it goes. I think it was just HDMI 3.0. I don't think it goes up to, you know, the higher specs. Or is that HDMI 2.5? And then just regular headset jack. You cannot use that for video out like you could with some of the Raspberry Pis. You know, you could just plug in, like, say, like, if you couldn't find the cords anywhere because they're all sold out for the Raspberry Pi RCA cords, you could actually buy RCA jack cables, which, you know, they have the 4-pole headset jack, and then you have your left, right, and video feed. But the cord that you can use on these is a RCA jack cord, RCA adapter jack cord for a Microsoft Zune, Z-U-N-E. If you remember those, if you're around to remember those or never even heard of them, quick little Amazon search and you can find those patch cables. And of course, we also have the standard DSI or display serial. And then we have the CSI, which is the camera serial interface. And then here we have the serial port. Well, I guess you could call it serial port. It's SATA, but technically, yeah, it's serial. And then there's the serial power. So you can hook up a serial drive to this and use the software that you can download from Banana Pi Org's website and get it to boot off of the hard drive. So, and of course, they sent me this board free of charge to give a fair and honest review. And let's see, well, I think the board is I want to say 38. I do believe it's $38 US brand new, which is not bad. It's about the same price as a Raspberry Pi 3. Ironically enough, if you want a Raspberry Pi 2, that's $45 just for the board. I can't even figure that one out. The 3 has got so much more power and they want more money for the Pi 2s. I wouldn't pay it. But we're going to load up an operating system. I'm thinking about going with Android 6.1, giving that a go, give it a whirl, and we'll do some benchmarks with that. That concludes part 1 of the BananaPi.org board. This is the Banana Pi. Oh, I forgot the exact model number. But I guess we won't need that. But it's the Banana Pi BP1 M2 Berry. And like I said, you can get these things for like 30 to 35 bucks, depending on where you find them at. From some reason, Amazon was selling them for $70. I cannot figure that one out. You know, they're just basically double priced them like they did with the NES Mini Classic. So but I digress. That concludes part 1 of the Banana Pi Berry review. And so, yeah, go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Tell me if you liked it, you hated it, what you want to see more of, what do you want to see less of. Just run the gamut. Thank you. And thanks for watching.